Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin has made it very clear to the White House and congressional leaders that he has concerns about Biden's Build Back Better agenda. Manchin suggests that he will only support spending $1 trillion on the plan, which would be less than a third of the proposed $3.5 trillion budget. Manchin has called for a strategic pause, whatever that means, on the bill until there is greater clarity, and has said that he will not support a bill anywhere near Biden's level without gaining that clarity. In an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, Manchin wrote, quote, "A pause is warranted because it will provide more clarity on the trajectory of the pandemic, and it will allow us to determine whether inflation is transitory or not." Despite Manchin's opposition to the spending plan, President Biden somehow remains optimistic that Manchin will come around.
Joe at the end has always been there. He's always been with me. I think we can work something out, and I look forward to speaking with him.
Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi also expressed her optimism about the ultimate passage of the bill.
I'm pretty excited about where we are. Everybody's working very hard. The committees are doing their work. We're on a good timetable, and I feel very exhilarated by it.
Once again, Manchin threatens the Biden agenda in the 50-50 Senate, where every Democratic vote is needed. Much like his opposition to eliminating the filibuster to pass the For the People Act, Manchin is overtly acting as a barrier to the passage of the Build Back Better plan. The news of Manchin's call to pause the bill and his proposed cuts to the social spending plan come as his approval rating in his home state of West Virginia declined slightly. According to a poll by the West Virginia Metro News, Manchin's approval rating has dropped from 44% in October to 42% now, while those who are unsure whether they approve increased to 21% from 13% over the same period. Joining us to discuss this more is Julianne Malveaux, Dean of the College of Ethnic Studies at California State University at Los Angeles. Julianne, what does Manchin have to gain by constantly being the person who puts the brakes on the Biden agenda?
Well, not a heck of a lot. In the short run, he's going to look like a Democrat who stood up to Biden. In the long run, if people, municipalities and others don't get the money they need for infrastructure, he's going to look like the devil. But in the very short run, what he's basically posing himself as is a fiscal conservative who doesn't want to spend a lot of money, even though it's necessary. This pause button thing is silly because inflation goes up and it goes down. You don't have an upward trajectory of inflation, or at least not enough data points right now to say that. So that's, to me, it's just specious. I think that he basically is an attention-seeking drama king.
So, you know, the people who defend Manchin say you have to let him have his space because, you know, most of the people in West Virginia voted for Donald Trump. It would be very easy to lose that seat to a Republican if you don't let him have his space, if you don't let him object whatever he needs to for political reasons back home to the Biden agenda. Do you buy that argument whatsoever?
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. No. I apologize, I was caught.
Don't worry.
But at the end of the day, no, I don't buy the argument.
Well,
I think that, again, I think there's just extreme attention-seeking behavior.
So I want to bring former Secretary of Labor and author of The System, who rigged it and how to fix it, Robert Reich, into the conversation. Secretary Reich, what does Joe Manchin have to gain by being the opposition to the Biden administration and basically to the entire Democratic agenda at this point?
Well, he has to gain, actually, there's several things, Charles. Number one, he gains attention. Politicians like attention. And number two, he gains leverage. I mean, you know, to be a senator from West Virginia under normal circumstances is not all that big a deal. But to be the kingpin. That is the person who has the deciding vote as to what's going to be in this $3.5 trillion bill and how much, whether voting rights are going to be carved out of the filibuster. I mean, that is a huge deal, a huge responsibility. It also means that the conservatives and Republicans in West Virginia may be slightly more inclined to vote for him next time he's up for re-election. And it means he's probably going to get a lot of money from conservative groups, from oil companies, from other groups and interests that don't necessarily like the direction the Democrats want to go in.
So, I was asking Julianne about, the idea that, we get it. Most people in West Virginia voted for Donald Trump by a long shot. A Democrat has not won a single county in West Virginia since before Barack Obama. So we get it, right? So he has to play to the locals, and they are very conservative in their voting, at least on the presidential level. However, do you buy this idea that the only way he can remain a Democrat, remain in the camp, is that he bucks the camp?
No, I don't.
Secretary Reich.
Charles, I don't think that that's the only option he has. I think that he wants to be a member of the Democratic Party. That was his choice initially. Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer have a lot of leverage over him because he is a Democratic senator in terms of what committee assignments he gets and how he's treated by the Democratic National Committee. I mean, this is a man, and we're talking about Joe Manchin, who is a Democrat. He is also supported by a lot of working people. And remember, Democrats have been traditionally the party of working America since Franklin D. Roosevelt. West Virginia itself was a Democratic state until relatively recently. So Joe Manchin really is not purely playing politics here in a kind of a cynical way. I think he, as I said, I think he likes the attention and the leverage, and perhaps it is going to help him with money and votes.
Charles, if I could just respectfully disagree with Secretary Reich, who I'm a big fan of yours, but I think that West Virginia is one of the poorest states in this nation. West Virginia gains disproportionately with the passage of the $3.5 trillion Infrastructure Act. It seems to me that Joe Manchin is operating outside the interests of his people for his personal political interests. If he's not the only one. If some of these Southern senators whose people make barely the minimum wage, if they would step up for their people, our nation would be better off. But I don't buy that Manchin is, a working state, blah, blah. I think that the man is just selfish and greedy.
Julian, you may be right. You may be right that he's selfish and greedy, but I don't think that necessarily distinguishes himself from every other politician that I've known in my experience. There's a lot of selfishness and a lot of greed out there, and especially Republican politicians, or at least politicians from Republican states, where you've got a lot of working class and poor people who vote Republican against their interests because they've been sold a bill of goods, because the Republicans are very good at messaging, much better than Democrats, and because they're very good at using social issues to disguise what they're doing economically.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about that.
I think certainly. I want to ask you one question here, Julianne. You say that he's working against his voters, but he doesn't seem to be paying a huge price in the polls, right? So this poll, the most recent poll, he goes down a little bit. But it's within the margin of error. He was at 42. He was at 44. Now he's at 42. It doesn't seem that the people of West Virginia are holding Manchin accountable in the way that the rest of the country and the rest of Democrats are holding him accountable. More people made up their mind about whether or not they were sure or unsure about how they have felt about him, but it's not hitting him yet where it needs to hit him to make him change his mind?
It may
Well, I
never
think that
hit
the keywords.
because as long as Republicans are able to spin the story that the only beneficiaries of government spending are Black people, which is not the truth, but that's the story they spin. So then poor white people who would benefit from some of the same things, Section 8, affordable housing, they see these programs as Black programs. I mean, I was actually on a webinar a week or so ago, and this woman was talking. She and her husband both worked at Walmart, and they were not making, I shouldn't have said Walmart, but whatever. And between them, they weren't making a living wage because both of them were on kind of part-time hours, and it was cash as cash can. And it was a very poignant story. There were several of us on the call. And at the end of it, what she said was, and this is horrible because we're white. This is someone who's acknowledged their poverty, everything else, but that felt it was especially horrible because she was white. So see, as long as Republicans can make white people feel that government spending, government service, poverty is a Black thing, then they don't want to deal with it, number one. And more importantly, it hardens their attitudes. And that's why they would still support, in my opinion, a Manchin.
Secretary Reich, did you want to get in on that?
Yeah, there's a lot to that. Now, remember, there are very few Black people in West Virginia. I mean, most of the poor and lower working class, poor working class people in West Virginia are white people. They're white people who have traditionally been associated with mine workers and with, retail, restaurant, hotel. I mean, there isn't much there in West Virginia any longer except the kind of extractive mine working industries. And I think that may explain a lot as well, because Joe Manchin is in league with fossil fuel, with coal. He doesn't like necessarily a lot of the environmental protections and anti-climate change measures in the $3.5 trillion bill, and they are there. The movement towards solar and wind. A lot of people in West Virginia are kind of nervous about all of that. So even if Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer were to do a much better job convincing the people of West Virginia that there's a lot in this bill for them, they might still be anxious about what this means for their jobs.
That's a fair point.
Julianne Malveaux, thank you very much. We have to go now, Julianne. Thank you for your time, though. I appreciate it. We will have you back, I'm sure. But thank you for your time tonight. Also, Robert Reich, author of The System, Who Rigged It, How to Fix It. Thank you for joining me tonight. Hurricanes like Ida and other natural disasters may play a role in the increase of hate crimes. More on that story next. You're watching Prime on BNC.